Well, welcome back to part two. I'm Mike Festiva. This is kind of midsummer work around my property, and I'm yarding out some cedars that have been down for a few years. It wasn't really high grade. Some of these parts was really knotty, and the top was split and regrew. But we're going to go back in and get this big boy that's in here, and it actually maxes out my sawmill. And towards the end of the video, we'll be firing up my homemade bandsaw mill and cutting some nice slabs. So stick around and enjoy the video. This thing, I could not touch it with my 18 horse 4x4 tractor. It just wouldn't move it. That was when it was green. It's been sitting here for a few years, but it's still pretty heavy. It's pretty big diameter. So we're gonna hook the tongs up here. I think this thing will yard it out no problem. This thing has just a lot more lifting capacity than my little tractor. So hook up to this and move it out of here. So later in the video, we'll actually get this giant log up on the sawmill. And my sawmill capacity is only about 26 inches between guide to guide. So this actually maxed it out at the base. So I had to take a chainsaw down the edges and rip it down. So it was about 24 inches, just so I had a little bit of clearance. But got some really nice slabs out of it. You'll see later in the video. As you can probably see, this is a big boy here. I think it's actually a 10-footer. And it's probably all the excavator really wants to do. As you can see, I had to put the blade down, drag it forward, and drive back a little bit, drag it forward. But probably moved about 25 feet. Should be some good cedar inside of this thing. So after getting those old cedar logs finally dragged out of the trees here, believe it or not, in the springtime you could actually ride a quad through here. It was a trail, but all the summer growth of all these salmon berries and a few stinging nettles through here made it just something you didn't even want to ride a quad through. So I'm just getting up here doing a little trail maintenance with the excavator. I really wish I had a thumb on here. It would have made some of this work a lot nicer, but that's something I'm hoping to build this fall to winter time when I got a little bit more time on my hands. Just going through here, ripping out some bushes and pulling them to the side. Up beyond this area I'm trying to clear into, I got a nice little camp spot. Just for guests, if they come over, they can hang out of that. And there's no way I was going to set them up here like this. So clearing out the road again, and I can get the little mini truck up here and harvest some more wood as well. So here I brought back about 3,500 pounds of basalt rock from a friend's place. And I split that up between two loads in the articulating dump truck. I've had some people ask if I actually finished it or I use it anymore, because they haven't seen it on the channel. And I use it all the time. I use it for hauling rock, sand, gravel, dirt, firewood. It's in use around my property all the time. As you can see, I haven't finished up the paint job on it, and I probably need to finish up another part on this series, but basically people stopped watching much of the series and I just kind of got tired of working on this thing and making videos on it, so just put it to use on my property, and it's been an awesome machine. I've also had a few people wonder if I wasted my time building this because I got the Suzuki Carry now. I think those people may have missed the point on it. This is two different vehicles. Like, this thing goes 5 to 10 miles an hour around my property, and it can haul about 2,000 pounds worth of material in it. And right here, if I wanted to, I could just basically point it up through the brush and go up there and get firewood out of the trees. And it's a very capable machine for going slow around the property. It's kind of like a tractor truck. And the Suzuki Carry is not capable of hauling that much. I think payload is about 800 pounds. But it can do 50, 55 miles an hour on the highway, go into town, get parts and things. And it's not as capable going off-road and up through the brush for firewood and things. So two different vehicles for two different jobs. So for the viewers that actually heat their shop and houses with wood heat, you'd probably understand the usefulness of this little mini truck I built. Around here, it's one of those things, firewood gathering is kind of year-round for us. If I see like a dead tree standing, I usually drop it, split it with my hydraulic wood splitter I built, and let it dry when you can, and haul it up to the woodshed. And this truck is a back saver. It's so useful for around here for hauling firewood and gravel and whatever else you need. It's a great little machine. So for any of my newer subscribers that have missed out on this articulating dump truck build series, I think I got 12 or 13 parts to get it to this point. I end up using Subaru transmission, running gear, rear diff, things like that. Everything else was built from the ground up from scratch in my little shop. So I'll put a little link below to the whole playlist series, and I highly recommend checking it out. We've got a lot of weight in here. The tires are crushed down a bit. Got Probably about 2,000 pounds of gravel in here. So this is my little 1990 Yanmar B22 little mini excavator. I bought it about a year ago over at a local gray market importer. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend checking it out. I'll put a link in the playlist below. So here I've been kind of picking away at this hillside and slowly terracing it since I got my excavator. And I've actually opened up quite a bit of level ground on my hillside here. And my plan in this area is just to have more space for parking logs, staging logs for the mill, because the mill is actually about 40 feet from this location. And actually behind where the excavator is, I plan to put up some poles in the ground this fall and just build a 12 by 16, 12 by 18 roof. That's something I can add on to later, just a pole structure. So I can park the excavator, Suzuki carry, and my articulating dump truck. We get tons of rain out here in the Northwest. So basically just slowly making a nice terrace out here. And right off camera, I actually have a few fruit trees around here just behind the excavator as well. So it's kind of easier for those were planted on a hillside before. So now I kind of terraced around them. So should be able to pick fruit on those things a lot easier now. And just kind of working on a nice flat spot. And it's going to be really, really nice to have a pole structure up here. Just something I can just keep some equipment dry in the wintertime. So I got out my 18 horsepower Shibura tractor. I've had this thing for years, and I thought it would be a lot faster moving all this dirt around up at this terrace because, it's on wheels. You can roll a lot faster than an excavator, but I think it's kind of a wash just because the excavator is so maneuverable. Even though it's slower, you can get into all kinds of locations. The tractor is kind of long and steers pretty slow, so I think in a small, tight area like this, the excavator wins. It's just more maneuverable. And right here, I'm removing a few small trees. I found when you're removing trees like 6-8 inch diameter and smaller, you're better off just trying to dig around, pop out the whole tree with the roots because you can use the leverage of the tree to push it down. So that's what I'm doing here. It's just kind of pushing with the bucket once you get a lot of the roots broken free. And works pretty good to get the trees out of the ground, stump and all. Well, I've got a whole bunch of dirt work done here. I'm going to put up a little pole structure. Got some metal roofing already, so I'm cutting all this back, just hour here, hour there in the evenings. Dug a bunch of trees standing, basically like 6-8 inch trees out. And just, so I'm going to put a little pole structure here, park the excavator and the articulating dump truck. Maybe the Suzuki carry, it'd be nice, but I don't think I'm actually have enough material to do all three vehicles in here for the time being. And cutting back this embankment here. I really found that by putting the excavator, turning around and putting the blade behind you really helps for leveraging off the embankment without lifting the front end too much. Just makes the excavator longer and sets it up pretty well for cutting this hard shaly soil away from the embankment here. got the mill site over here. So it's just one big flat terrace all the way through here now. Gonna cut back this maybe another 8 feet, transition up to that corner because I'm bringing stuff in and out of here a lot. It'd be nice to be able to haul logs up and down. Same for this side. I have a whole bunch of terracing I want to do over here. First off, I got to clean up the mill site. Here's some metal I got for that pole structure. Gonna cut this back a ways and hopefully someday do a little wood shop over here. Makes sense to have a mill right here and a little woodworking shop. So this is my old reliable tractor here. It's a Shibira 1840. It's 18 horsepower diesel 4-wheel drive tractor. I picked this up probably 5 years ago maybe. It's been a super reliable machine. I got it for a pretty good price. It had the hydraulic front bucket on there, but it didn't come with any 3-point attachments. Since then, I built like a box scraper and some stuff like that for it. But I think I got this thing for like 3,600 bucks. It's been a solid machine. But here I'm using a new chipper shredder I got for it. I've had an old Troy built kind of a smaller consumer style one, and finally decided I've had enough repairing it. And so I got this chipper shredder because I have a lot of trees to shred up, and it's kind of nice for mulch for around the garden and stuff like that. I've been really happy with it so far. Time will tell how it holds up, but I had my old Troy built I bought used, and it's lasted me like 14 years. So this thing, if I get 20 out of it, it should be pretty good. It's been a pretty reliable tractor so far. Sometime down the road, I'll go into a little more of a video on details on it. This tractor has a ton of cool features. But yeah, so far, this chipper shredder, it's kind of nice. It's powered now from the 18 horsepower engine, and it devours all kinds of stuff. I think it'll chip up to 4-inch, and anything bigger than that, I just cut into firewood. So it's quieter than the other chipper shredder I have, and it runs at slower RPM and reversible cutter blades. So hopefully it holds up well, and it looks pretty simple to maintain. I think I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I've been using more and more e-saws around here. I don't have any problem running a gas chainsaw. Gas chainsaws, they seem to run quite long on a tank of fuel. I still feel like the battery technology has to come a long ways before the e-saws are really up there along lines of gas. But around the mill, for just firing up really quick to cut down like some branches on a side of a log, or just keeping on the excavator or tractor when you come across something hanging over the trail. They're super convenient to have. They're much more quiet, and they're fairly powerful. So I've been finding that they're maybe not 100% of a replacement for a gas saw, but they work pretty good for what they are. So here I'm using the Suzuki carry to haul up some 12-foot sheets of metal roofing up to by the mill. Across the way is where I'm actually going to be putting that pole structure up. This is a shot from a previous video to show where some of these logs are coming from. These are the tops of a cedar tree, I think some 10s and some 12-footers. And these ones I'm just hauling over to the mill, and in the next part of the video here we're going to actually be milling these up for the posts for the pole structure. I think we're going to be cutting them into true 6x6s. So here's my mill, in case you guys have missed out. This is what started my YouTube channel. I needed a sawmill, and years ago I built this thing from scratch. First part of the mill cost me about 250 bucks a build with pallet racking, motorcycle parts, and kind of talked with friends and got some stuff given to me like the engine, some stuff like that. Since then I've added a bunch of different features like power feed and electric height adjustment. And it's just a super awesome machine. I actually hadn't fired it up for about 1.5 years and just finally got it going again recently. Just got onto other projects and things, but something pretty gratifying about taking a round tree and turning it into some nice lumber. It's been a really nice little mill to have around. So if you're not familiar with my bandsaw mill, I'll put a whole playlist below in the description. It covers basically the first YouTube video I ever built on making this mill. Bear with me, some of the YouTube videos on the Sawmill are probably older and the video quality is maybe a little less quality, and editing maybe wasn't as good, but a lot of good information in there. It covers how I built the mill, and I got a bunch of other videos like power feed, how I built that, electric height adjustment, throttle control, and blade lube, all electronically controlled. The power feed is probably the next best advancement I've made on the mill after building it, just because I can turn it on, let it cut through the log without pushing it all the way through, and return it to home. I also wired in limit switches so I can have it stop at the end of the log if I want when it returns home. And it's just been a really great little machine. It's been pretty affordable to build. Wasn't the craziest to actually design. It was just a lot of salvaging and thinking outside the box on it. And so if you're interested in more of the components I used on it and how I went about it, check out that playlist below. Think you'll like it. Well, I got this log almost cut into a 6x6, plus I got some little bits of siding as well. And it's actually going to be a true dimensional 6x6. A lot of the lumber you see at the lumber stores is not true dimensional. So when you really see a 4x4 or a 6x6, they look massive compared to the stuff you get at the lumber store. I want to mention, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. I got a lot of videos about working around my property like this, but I also have a lot of stuff about like how I built this bandsaw mill from scratch, or the articulating dump truck, and various different projects around here. I also cover a lot of welding tutorials and different tips on fabrication, so consider subscribing if you're not. And if there's something you guys want to see in more detail in the next part of this video series, I can explain more. If there's some questions you have about the mill or the articulating dump truck or anything like that, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to go into more detail on that. All right, enjoy the rest of the video. So back to the big boy that you guys saw in the beginning of the video. This is a 10-foot cedar, and I'm not sure the width of it at the base, but my mill has a capacity between guide to guide of 26 inches. And as you see, I've had to work down the edges of it quite a few times and narrow it up to about 24 inches to fit easily between the guides. But I actually got a bunch of slabs cut out of this thing and a bunch of siding. It's kind of amazing how much wood you can get out of just one section of tree like this. So this is kind of finishing off the last little bit of the video here. We're just going to be cutting some big slabs out of this. Once I get this off the mill, I actually have a bunch of trees to mill up in the next part for some rafters and things for that pole structure. So we'll get to that in part 3. Now that's a pretty nice slab. I think that would make a really nice tabletop, little bar tabletop or something. That turned out great.